what tonight is about is about lifting up the people that have been making this happen.
As a fairly new, relatively new American citizen, the world is still watching and holding the US as an example. There is no other substitute in my view. So we've got to fix democracy right here, right now.
I was told by all of my peers it could not happen. The guardrails would come off and the sky would fall if you ran a ranked choice voting election, and it would cost you millions of dollars. So I jumped in and said, you know what, I ran on a platform of making government better, faster, cheaper, and ranked choice voting makes elections better, faster, and cheaper.
So as we've taken this around the state, we had one courageous county clerk stand up and say, I'll do this. We had 2 cities with mayors and city councils that said, yeah, we'll be pioneers. And their courage in doing this at a time where it was not a popular thing to do amongst the insiders in some places in Utah, says a lot about their character and their willingness to try to do what's right and to try to do things that are innovative, that allow voters to more fully express their will at the polls.
It really, truly did, as Stan said, brought more civility in our government. It integrated shared visions, but also allowed those unheard voices to come forward.
We need to revive the trajectory and the power of democracy expansion in the country. And so no group has been more at the center of that struggle of electoral reform and democratic expansion than Fair Vote.
We've had some changes going on in Virginia this year. For the last 20 years we had Republican control. Now we have Democratic control. And in order for us to pass our constitutional amendment, it needs to pass twice in the same form. So it's a challenge for these new members, these new Democrats who taste power for the first time in a generation. But we are confident with all of your help and all of our board members and Brian will be able to get it done.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said that you need to do one thing every day that scares you. And when I reflect on that, I think about how the campaign that I'm running, the work that we're doing in Ranked Choice Voting Maryland, there's a lot of scary things when you're introducing bills, when you're trying to engage new legislators or establishment that maybe isn't really responding to you. And you need to do different things. You need to create power. You need to bring people together. And I think that's what we're seeing here in happening with Fair Vote Washington.
An organizer in Bellingham, Washington, Kit Muehlman, who has been going to the farmers market every single week for the last 6 months, and she talks to people. She meets people where they are, and she talks about ranked choice voting. And our chair, Lisa Aero, was just at a ranking event. Kit wasn't there, but they went around the room, they asked everyone, how did you find out about us? How did you find out about ranked choice voting? And nearly every single person in the room said, well, I met this woman at the farmer's market, right? And that's how it happens.
Now that we've won, we get to have our first ranked choice voting election in New York City, and I'm really excited to be running citywide. I can already feel the ways in which it's changing how you campaign. I'm going to neighborhoods I probably would have written off before. I'm saying to people, hey, if I can't be your first choice, could I be your second?
I'm so excited that those of us getting the award from New York City got ranked choice voting across the finish line. I'm looking forward to that. There is still so much more that needs to be done.
This is not a partisan question, or if it has to be a partisan question, it should be a bipartisan question, and that's how we have to pursue it. In order to have inclusive voting, full representation, fair voting, and fair campaigning, we have to reorganize the powers of government. Ranked choice voting plus multi-member districts, Representative Byers Act, Fair Act, Representation Act, seems to me the most important thing we ought collectively to do.
In 2004, Christ wrote a book making the case for electoral reform called Of Grunge in Government, Let's Fix This Broken Democracy. And in it he writes, music and politics are similar because they are both about bringing people together. Christ always believed that politics is a tool for the common good and shouldn't be just a game of zero-sum toxic partisanship that we see today. In his book, Chris noted how change can be brought to both music and to politics, writing that it's the people on the so-called fringes who actually bring change. Without rebels, rabble-rousers, malcontents, or whatever label we choose to apply, things would remain static. And Chris lived that experience as a musician who saw that people will indeed embrace alternatives that may seem new and exotic at first. And that's the perspective that he brought to Fair Vote when he joined the board in 2005 and then as board chair in 2008.
People have a lot in common, and we could find that we could make this change in America, that the United States of America could live up to our name, that we could be united and have this profound change in the way we elect our legislature, our United States House, where we are today, that people from all walks of life, you could be a rural Democrat, you could be an urban Republican, you could be independent, space for third parties, all that way. You pay taxes, you're subject to the rules and laws of the land, you deserve representation.
This is something for all America. We really want this to be something that will transform American democracy. We want Fair Vote to be a center for a 50-state movement, providing resources to folks on the ground who are making it happen, providing the thought leadership to enable that to happen, and to really bring about, that vision of a more perfect union. It will never be perfect. We hope to always make it more perfect as time goes on. So I really want to thank you all, and it's going to be an exciting year coming up. Thank you.